Welcome one and all to another edition of the Defo Show with Lubie here on the 5 Reasons Sports Network, brought to you by Water Cleanup of Florida. It has been drier these days in South Florida than we're used to, but you know the waterworks is soon to approach. Leaks can approach no matter what, no matter when, any time of year at your home or office. Don't let them stress you out. Believe me, I'm the king of when things happen at my home or my place of work. It really throws me off. But one thing I've learned, it doesn't have to be the case, especially because we know Water Cleanup of Florida is out there to help you. They've already helped me and my wife. They made life so much easier. They took all the stress away from the issues because I just called them up and they came. Michael, Robert, 13, with over 60 years of combined experience. They answer the phone 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 954-579-0356. So not only they answer the phone, not only they make the appointment, and not only they diagnose the issue and fix it, but because of their licensed, insured, certified contractors, they make it look brand new. That's a lot of the time the issues when something pops up with our home, we're not only worried about getting it corrected, but it's like when you skin a knee. You don't want to leave a scar, right? You want it to look brand new. Well, not every place gives you that. Water Cleanup of Florida does. Their people know what they're doing to make sure it looks like nothing ever happened. That's what you want. That's what you'll get with Water Cleanup of Florida. You can also check them out on their website, WCUFL.com. Again, 954-579-0356. And if you don't trust me, which is fine, even though I have worked with them personally, they have done work on our homes. Check out their Google reviews, over 75-star reviews. Check them out on the socials as well, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, at Water Cleanup FL, Water Cleanup of Florida. If you have the schmutz, they have the guts. The Dolphins have not had the guts lately. Look, they've not gotten blown out. They've hung around, but they have struggled the last couple of weeks, and they have taken it on the chin. 2 games that after injuries, it felt like the Dolphins would be able to find a way to win. The San Francisco 49ers lose their quarterback, have a 7th-round pick at quarterback, and lose by double digits. The Chargers are missing 2 of the best defensive players in football in Derwin James Jr. and Joey Bosa. The Dolphins offense cannot take advantage of it. The Dolphins offense goes into a shell, was not good. Tua himself looked bad. The offense looked horrible. And the Dolphins now have lost 2 in a row. They're now sitting there at 8-5 in a very, very competitive AFC East, a very, very competitive AFC. And we talked pigskin today, a lot of Dolphins on the Pigskin Playbook with John Congemi. We talked a lot of Dolphins right here on the Defo Show with Lubie on the 5 Reasons Sports Network. Pigskin Playbook man himself, also formerly Dateline Dolphins. John Congemi, thank you to Jimmy Johnson's Big Show of Key Largo. So I appreciate you joining us. Before we get into any other muck, I asked Brett this, and I want to ask you, as a guy who's played football a long time, covered college, high school, college, and the NFL a long time, what was your first impression in general of yesterday's Dolphins game?
That the Dolphins are getting figured out a little bit, I believe, on offense. I think the defense is pretty good. It was bend, not break, because it could have been worse.
Yeah.
But, I just think that teams are starting to make adjustments on how to combat the speed off the line of scrimmage and how to battle with the motion and matchups. And they're gaining more depth off the line of scrimmage. They're crowding Tyreek, his release off the line of scrimmage. And I think it's throwing off the synergy where the ball was coming out with ease for 2 months and guys were wide open. And now it's creating hesitation and delay, and the timing just isn't there. And I think the Dolphins, even though it might look uglier, need to kind of change course and get a little bit more hard-headed about running the football, checking it down, throwing some meaningless plays that may get you 4 or 5 yards, but it's going to put you in 3rd and 2s and 3rd and 4s. And instead of, throwing the football into a crowd and hoping that the big play is going to somehow resurface.
Well, and that's the thing is, and we've seen from Mike McDaniel to this point, he came in saying, and we saw what he did with San Francisco, the running game was going to be a big part of the offense. And early on, you realize, it might not work like I wanted. So as good to great coaches do, they put a game plan around the players they have and the players they want. And that's great. But you're right. To have a successful offense, you need a balanced attack. And just because the rushing attack isn't working, what we're seeing is, okay, we're going to block the middle off. We're not going to let you run. What do you have for us? In the last 2 weeks, it's been a struggling Tua, who had the worst completion percentage at half of any quarterback this season, which is strange, especially for him, but he's probably the most accurate.
As good as he's been.
Especially with his accuracy. I mean, his one calling card is his accuracy. But NFL teams are not going to, they're disrupting that timing. We're seeing it. They were very physical last night with the receivers to a point where I was wondering, is this 1988? Like, when did Steve Atwater start playing secondary for the Chargers? But they were letting him get away with it, and you have to work with that. You brought up some of the things, because that's I don't know if I have concerns. Look, I think he's come to this point showing every time there's a nail in the fork in the road, he's figured it out. And I think he will. It's just, there's only so much you can figure out when you have a banged-up offensive line, when you have a banged-up Jeff Wilson Jr. who's doing a hell of a job, when it is year one, so things are already, going to take time. Like, what else do you think he can do, and can they fix it on the fly here as the AFC is getting really tight in that playoff picture?
Well, the Buffalo Bills and the Buffalo weather is going to fix it for the Miami Dolphins next week. I mean, there's going to be no high-flying circus. The tent's gone. I mean, it's going to be blown away in Orchard Park next week, and the weather's going to dictate what they can do. And it's going to be a back alley brawl type of thing, where you have to, go 3 and out, sometimes ugly, where you don't get a 3rd and 2 trying to run the football, or you misfire, or the ball kind of, you can't control the velocity and the accuracy because of the elements. And you're going to have to figure out ways to generate plays and generate first downs. And that's going to happen organically, whether the Dolphins like it or not. I mean, you just watched the Bills play yesterday, and it wasn't pretty for much of that game. There hadn't been a point scored almost up until halftime. And, Buffalo found a way to, I don't know if it's getting more disciplined, but they just figured out that it's going to be an ugly win. Yeah. And we just have to be a little bit prettier than our opposition. And I think that's where the Dolphins are right now. They've been sexy, for 2.5 months. And now the lipstick and makeup are going to go out the window, and the Dolphins have to figure out a way. And I think the defense, to some extent, has done that. Christian Wilkins is playing as good or anybody in the National Football League. Jalen Phillips is coming with speed off of the edge. They're doing it, even though it doesn't look like they're completely healthy in the secondary. They're finding ways to stay in games. It's not like they're shutting people down, but they're definitely not letting opposing teams run away and hide with 2 touchdown leads. They're kind of staying in the game and giving the offense a chance, and they haven't responded in 2 weeks. Now, whether that's, in the case of San Francisco, they went up against the number 1 defense in a lot of categories, and they did some things differently to kind of derail the Dolphins. But the Chargers were depleted on defense. Yes. They had 3 starters that didn't play in key positions and still found a way with the experience of playing against Tyreek Hill all those years in Kansas City. I think that the Chargers had a way to slow him down enough and take everybody else out of the game and rattle the pocket just a bit. The Dolphins had a couple of nice runs, but they ran for 36 yards in the first half, had 55 total yards. The Chargers shut them down, but yet the Dolphins still had a chance to win the game. And it seems like the last couple of weeks, as poorly as the offense played, the San Francisco game, they had the ball at midfield with a chance to win. Yeah. Last night, they're 1 score away. They get a chance to win. They kick the field goal. They almost get the onside kick and have a chance to do something there in the late in the game. So, hey, for all the poor talk about where the offense has been the last couple of weeks, they just need to be a little bit better, maybe eliminate 1 bad play and find a way to kind of grind it out, because they're going to need to win ugly in Buffalo.
Well, and the funny thing is, we're so used to, we're here in South Florida especially, and you're by way of Ohio, but you're a South Floridian. You've been here long enough. we find ways to find the negative so often, and especially with this franchise. It's funny. I grew up and it was always a positive because I grew up in the Marino era, but it's been so long since then that we find the negative. And to me, I find myself, and maybe it's because they've been sexy, and I like McDaniel, and I've always been a Tua backer, and he's finally playing the way I knew he could play. I'm finding the positive, and not silver linings, but there's still 4 games left. They're still in the playoffs right now. After this next game, the next 3 are all not only winnable, they should be favored. Even at New England, they still actually, outside of the weather, should be favored.
It should be a 3-point, 4-point.
The playoffs are there for them. To me, that's all you could add. Like, at this point in the season, before the year, I didn't get it. You play a season, so things change. But before the year, if you had told me that they'd be 8-5, but 9-6, 8-5, play in the playoff picture, and have good records against all the other playoff opponents, if they win out after Buffalo, that they're probably in the playoffs, I'd be giddy. So, to me, year one, that's really all you can expect. It's just funny. We're so used to shifting our expectations that we heard the word Super Bowl. So now, oh my God, they've lost 2 in a row. What are we going to do? McDaniel, Tua, oh my God. Every team has struggles in the season. We've seen that. Look at the Bills. The Bills look like they fell off a cliff for 2 or 3 straight weeks. Like, it happens. To me, you said, and that's the thing I've actually paid a lot of attention to, is they played horrible on offense, really, the last 2 weeks. And with a quarter of the fourth quarter left, they had a chance to win the game. Like, that's a different place than they've been in the past, where we were just written off the game. This team, Mike McDaniel and these guys don't. Like, to me, and that if they're doing that within the game, why wouldn't they do that the rest of the season?
Yeah, not only would we have written off the game in prior years, it would have been a 14 or 17-point deficit at some point. They would have found a way to lose that game by more than 2 touchdowns. Remember, Lubie, when we were going through the exercise with Jeff and, how many wins the Dolphins were going to have, and we were tallying these wins up. And I said in the beginning of the year, if the Dolphins go 2-2 out of the gate, first 4, they're going to be okay. Well, they were better than that. They were 3-1, I believe, after the first 4 weeks. Yep. And then I said they're going to go through a stretch where they're going to clean up on teams because it just sets up that they're going to be average to mediocre to bad football teams that you're going to find a way to win. You may get a couple blowouts, but you may just find a way to win because you're better. And then they're going to hit the skids. They're going to hit a brick wall when they start to travel for these 3 games on the road. They're going to have to find a way to win one of them. If they can win one of those games, settle the ship, they're going to be okay. And they'll get to, at that time I said 10. When the Dolphins got on a real roll, I said, well, maybe they get to 11. I don't know. Yeah. We're back to reality, right? We're back to kind of where we thought, all of us talked about it, we thought the Dolphins would be. You're going to have to try to steal one against either San Fran or the Chargers. They didn't get that done. You kind of had the L column locked up traveling to Buffalo at that time of year. So maybe they do, maybe they don't. But if they don't, they're still in position to be able to win at home against Green Bay, go travel to New England, beat a very average Patriots team, and then come home to a much improved Jets team with a lot on the line. So I think it sets up for the Dolphins, especially for the Dolphin fans. It sets up to be a really exciting finish, maybe a little bit closer or nail-biting type of situation than you wanted, but it's going to be exciting, and we'll see what type of team we have. We'll see what type of coaching staff we have, and we'll see if this football team as a group, not only offense and defense, everybody seems to always want to pit. Well, the defense played great, but the offense didn't do anything. Well, it's still under the Miami Dolphins, right? You got to kind of put that aside. Yeah, you could say that and whisper that to your teammate or whisper that to your friend, but at the end of the day, nobody really gives a shit how good the defense played if the team lost. Right? Yeah, nobody really cares. Yeah. So I just think that the reality's, kind of settled in. The team's a really good team, but they got to figure out the Buffalo Bills on the road. And if they don't, they definitely need to beat the teams they're supposed to beat when it comes down to it.
Well, and that's the thing is and I'm not trying to be uber positive, especially after 2 tough losses, but it just feels, I don't know, they feel different. Like they feel like a team that they need to figure it out. And in the past where I would assume they wouldn't, I sort of feel like they can. Maybe they don't, but I feel like they at least can, which to me is a breath of fresh air. Like to have a coach there that it feels like he knew, like he doesn't look shocked at any of this. He's like, look, at some point they're going to figure me out. And when they do, I'll take the next step and I'll make the next move. And I think they put him in check. Now it's his time to get out of checkmate. And I sort of feel like he can.
Well, the thing that it is a tad for me disappointing is that they haven't been able to just get out of what they're doing and get into something else. Because sometimes, all that motion and all these formations and a lot of different things, when teams are kind of figure out, get back to the basics. If you have a positive play, let's repeat that positive play in the running game. I saw a couple runs by Wilson that were really good. And then all of a sudden you don't see another running play for, 3, 4, 5 plays. And you don't see that exact same running play, maybe run out of a different motion or a different formation, but get back to the same play. I remember watching the game last night and Wilson, earlier in the game looks over to the sidelines and kind of goes, man, I'm this close from breaking one to go into distance. I'm really, what he was saying was, hey, head coach, repeat that play because I think we can get it. We're blocking it. I almost got to the back end of that hole and I was out the gate for a really big play, if not a touchdown. So I think sometimes you have to go back and kind of shorten that call list, check the football down, maybe, send everybody off the line of scrimmage like we have been for 2.5 months, but let your running back run an option route underneath, or just let, your tight end kind of on a delay or a drag, a short under across the middle with trips, getting full flow to the other side, and it's an easy pitch and catch, and you maybe, you get 15, 20 yards, and now you're on a roll. You have a drive starter instead of maybe, pushing the football down the field.
Well, and that's the thing is something you said is like, and they did it they did it last night where it was like a third, I don't know what it was 3rd and 10. And it was like maybe if they gained some yards, they could go for it on 4th down. Because they had the two drives where they got to right around midfield, the one they got to the other side. Tua ran. I've been begging for Tua to do this for 3 years. Tua, instead of forcing a pass, ran, got first downs. Cool. They reset the downs.
Yeah.
But then they went back to throwing it down the field, and I was like, it's not working. Like, what do you, like... And it was like wasted downs. And then you find yourself on a 3rd and 10, and instead of just throwing a short pass and maybe making it 4th and 5, where McDaniel would go for it, Tua threw it into triple coverage, and it was like he wasn't even trying to complete that. He was just throwing it away, and it was like, all right, fine. I didn't really lose it. I sort of felt like last night was going to be an L, but I'm like, how does McDaniel change the mentality? Because we've seen that so often when teams get in this flow of an offense. The Rams for years, the greatest show on turf. The problem is, when they needed to slow down and kill clock, they couldn't slow down and kill clock, and they lose because you're trying to change a mentality. And you're saying it. How do they change a mentality that's worked to this point, but now it's not? It's clearly not working anymore. And the run game is supposed to be a big part of this offense. It feels like they go away from it way too easy. It may not be working, but at some point, you got to force it down someone's throat, and eventually they're going to tire out, and eventually those holes are going to open up, is what you think.
Well, that's what I was getting to, repeating a positive play, especially in the running game. I don't know if the Dolphins have run the football 3 consecutive plays all year. I don't know. Maybe they have, but it just doesn't feel like they have. And sometimes you just need to get back to not basics, but get back to kind of going, okay, we just got 12 yards on a really nice Wilson run. Let's kind of repeat that. Maybe we'll give them a little different look formation wise, but we can go back and repeat that run. Now, I remember maybe it was a month ago, we were talking about how dominant the line of scrimmage play was in terms of offense and defense. The Dolphins dominated up front, and they were able to do anything they really wanted to do. That hasn't been the case so much on offense the last couple of weeks.
No.
Now, Armstead's playing hurt. Hey, give him all the credit in the world going out there, but at some point, he's going to be a liability because he was, getting thrown. That's a big man to get thrown around like that. Yeah. So it's going to be tougher for him moving forward, especially when you're starting to play better teams. You're kind of up against it now. So if Fisher's going to play, maybe he can get in there and play this week with a full week under his belt. I don't know. But you definitely don't want to move Shell back to the left side because that's not where he plays his best. If Armstead can give you 2 quarters, he can give you 2 quarters. But that offensive line doesn't seem as, um, I guess, playing
Yeah.
as a group
Yeah.
as they had been when things were rolling.
Yep.
They've had their moments. They've had some good moments, but they've also had more down moments, or more missed assignments, or more just getting physically beat at the point of attack than we've seen in earlier in the year. So I think that's one of the things that people go, well, the passing game's off, Tua's off. He's terrible now. He's back to what he's doing, but you kind of miss what's in front of him a little bit, and that kind of alters holding the ball, alters your timing, it alters ball location. All those things kind of filter into quarterback play when the guys up front aren't doing what they need to do.
Oh, and that's the thing we've seen around here for a long time. When quarterback's getting hit, even, and Sam Darnold talked about this, the ghost, even when there are plays where you're not getting hit, you're so accustomed to feeling the pressure that that clock is ticking louder and louder in your head, where by second 3, even if there's no pressure, you have to get rid of it, because by second 4, someone's going to hit you, even if they weren't. So that's what we're seeing in these last 2-3 weeks is Tua is having like flashbacks. And it feels like even on plays where there isn't a rush, he knows at some point it's coming. And they have to sort of address that. And we'll see how they do that on the fly. So here's the deal. Look, I'm the first person to be negative as a South Florida sports fan. I'm born and raised down here. I'm a fan of all the local teams. I am a FSU fan. I don't really root on the Canes, but I don't hate the Canes. I grew up having a soft spot for the Canes. Being from down here, my grandfather went there. My grandmother volunteered there. I spent every Saturday swimming in the friggin' UM pool. So I have a soft spot for the Canes. I'm a South Florida fan through and through. So I've been through the highs, the lows, and I have my negativity ratcheted high. I'm the first person to find negativity, even negatives, even when things are good. So here, it's interesting that I'm finding the positives in the middle of the negatives with the Dolphins. Look, they're 8-5. Their offense hasn't been good. But it isn't all on Tua. This idea, well, Tua hasn't been big for the moment. Are you watching what do you talk? Like, their offensive line sucks. It has all year, even when their offensive line was okay, it wasn't good. Teron Armstead was carrying, and Connor Williams played well. We're carrying the rest of the line with them. Okay? Like, they weren't good. They haven't had a run game the entire year. Jeff Wilson Jr. came and helped the run game. But it wasn't a good running game. And the running game is supposed to be what this offense is predicated on. So they've been doing it with smoke and mirrors all year long. Tua's played great. Waddle and Hill have been seemingly unstoppable. But here's the deal. Waddle's hurt. Teron Armstead is hurt. So their offensive line's playing even worse. You have really no run game. And now Waddle is hurt. Look, Waddle didn't play at all, really, 2 weeks ago. And this week, Waddle had like one catch, had like 2 or 3 targets. Waddle was not involved in that game at all. Okay, so here's the deal. The idea that the Niners and the Chargers block the middle of the field. Well, when you have no run game, you have no offensive line, and now you don't have Waddle, so it's only Hill. So all you have to do is stop Hill. It makes it easier to stop in the middle of the field. And with that, Tua hasn't looked good. Clearly, Tua hasn't looked good. But when he's getting hit and his receivers are not, this week, 2 weeks ago, fine. Receivers were open a little bit. He was off. That wasn't the case this week. The receivers had nowhere to go. There was no separation. And I don't care how good you are as a quarterback. You can try and throw guys open. If the defensive back, the linebacker, is standing right there, you can throw the best pass ever. It's not going to get caught. So this week wasn't Tua not being ready for the moment or whatever garbage people want to throw out there. No, Tua had zero help. Point blank. And Justin Herbert looked great. Well, Justin Herbert got hit a lot. He did. And he threw to wide open receivers. Every time Herbert would have a rush and try to throw it, he had Eckler wide open or Williams wide open. Or he would have the Palmer guy wide open. Or he'd have Keenan Allen. Like, literally, his receivers ran open the entire day. The Dolphins' secondary is not good. It's banged up. Brandon Jones is hurt. Byron Jones has not played the entire year. You're counting on young guys that have really no NFL experience. So the Xavier Howard, who's definitely hurt and is not playing at 100% and is asked to do a lot of things. Their linebackers are not good. They haven't been good. Jalen Phillips and Chubb are not linebackers. They're pass rushers. They play at linebacker and they rush the passer. And they're really good at rushing the passer. They're not good as linebackers. They're not great at stopping the run, and they're not good at all in coverage. Okay? If you watch that game, Justin Herbert got hit a lot and threw to wide open guys. He looked spectacular. He was great. His percentages is good. Yeah, when you're throwing to wide open guys all game, you should have a high percentage. The Dolphins defense didn't allow a ton of points, but they let the Chargers move the ball almost the entire game. Like, the Chargers had the ball a lot, okay? On top of that, the Dolphins don't have an offensive line, and they don't have a run game. So there's only so much Tua can do. So that's what we saw yesterday. But here's the thing. even with that, the Dolphins, late in the fourth quarter, had a chance to take a lead against the Niners, and in the fourth quarter had a chance to take a lead against the Chargers. So no matter what you want to say, as bad as the Dolphins have played, they still had a chance to win in two tough environments versus two good teams. One great. The Niners are playing great right now, and the Chargers are a good team. The Dolphins had a chance to win, and they lost, and they're now in 5, and they're probably going to lose versus the Bills. But the last 3 games, Packers, Patriots, Jets, all either should be wins or the Dolphins should be favored. So the Dolphins are still in an interesting spot. I'm not writing the season off. Look, Mike McDaniel now has to work around. He's a really, really bright offensive mind, and his offensive line's banged up. His receivers are banged up. Now Jeff Wilson Jr., who was really helping their running game, is hurt. So we'll see what Mike McDaniel schemes up to try and figure things out. So far, it's been good up until the last couple of games. We'll see what he does. I have faith in Tua. I have faith in Mike McDaniel, and I'm excited to see what they do to fix things. If you want to check out more of what we do, you can do that each and every morning from 7 to 9, the Defo Show with the Lubie on South Florida Live. So just look up on Google or YouTube, the Defo Show with the Lubie. Look up on Google or YouTube, South Florida Live. Check us out there, and you can check us out on the Believe Network, our national podcast. We've had some fun things going on there. I talked with actress McKenna Grace. We do our thing each and every week with handicapper Brandon Lang, who's not only hot with picks, but he's actually really funny. So check that out, the Believe Network, BLEAV.com. Search After Hours. You can check us out here with our South Florida content, the Defo Show with the Lubie, on the 5 Reasons Sports Network.
From the newly renovated sports bar to the beautiful bayside views captured at the Tiki Bar, Jimmy Johnson's Big Chill has it all. Located at mile marker 104, the Big Chill also offers waterfront dining while experiencing breathtaking sunset views of the Florida Keys. It's simply the hottest spot in the Keys to cool off. That's Jimmy Johnson's Big Chill at mile marker 104 in Key Largo. For more information, call today at 305-453-9066.
These days, we're all looking for comfort anywhere we can find it. Thank goodness for Landlubbers Raw Bar and Grill in the Plantation, because they are making sure you are as comfortable as possible. First of all, they're not only open for delivery and pickup. All you have to do is go to landlubbersbarandgrill.com for both pickup and free delivery. You're going to have the best wings in the world. You're going to have a great burger. You're going to have their amazing soups. Again, Landlubbers, Raw Bar and Grill. It's nice and easy. Just go to landlubbersbarandgrill.com for both your pickup and free delivery. Thank goodness for Landlubbers for making you always feel right at home.